The next HTML5 element we want to take a look at is the nav element. Again, if we come back to Safari, where we have the completed example, we know that this header area contains this logo, but it also contains the main navigation system for the site, which is News, Donate, and Contact. Well, it just so happens that there's something called the nav element inside of HTML5 that gives you the ability to place your navigational content within this specific container. Like header, there are exceptions and there's reasons as to when and why you would use the nav element. So if we come back to the W3C's website, again, I'm looking at the spec author view of the HTML5 specification. Specifically here, we're looking at the nav element. You'll notice that the general description reads, the nav element represents a section of a page that links to other pages or to parts within the page. It's a section with navigation links. So that seems fairly straightforward, but of course they add a twist to it. If we go ahead and look at this first note, it reads, not all groups of links on a page need to be within a nav element. The nav element is primarily intended for sections that consist of major navigational blocks. In particular, it is common for footers to have a short list of links to various pages on the site, such as a terms of service, a homepage, so on and so forth. The footer element alone is sufficient for such cases, while the nav element should be reserved for more robust major navigational sections. It goes on to read that user agents, such as screen readers, will be able to quickly identify navigational content, and based upon that content, it can determine if it needs to skip that content or provide that content immediately to the user. So the nav element really does quite a bit in terms of the browser's understanding of the content on your page. So again, for our example, we don't really have much in the way of navigational content, but this certainly is a major navigational block, which means we should be using the nav element. So we'll come back into Dreamweaver, and inside of Dreamweaver, you want to make sure that you have a blinking cursor inside your header. Furthermore, if you go into the split view, you should see that you do in fact have a blinking cursor within the header. And what you want to do is add a nav element within this header section. So in the Insert panel, under the Structure section, you'll notice that there's a button called Navigation. If you go ahead and click it, we're going to give it an ID of nav. Go ahead and click OK. Once you click OK, your nav element is now inside of your header element. And if we come over to the code view specifically, we'll see just that. So we're continuing to build out this HTML5 structure. We now have an appropriate header. This header is going to contain the logo information and the major navigational block within the page.